the Action Campaign's video series explaining the legislative provisions in the Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act of 2021. In this video, Ariane and I will discuss how this legislation would make changes to the tax code related to claiming housing credits when a building suffers a casualty loss. Because the housing credit is a public-private partnership with private ownership of rental properties that must be rented to low-income tenants at affordable rents, the private owner of the property, not the taxpayer, is responsible for fixing a property if there's a casualty loss, like a flood or a fire. Ariane, if a casualty like this occurs, does the owner get to continue to take credits against their federal tax liability while the apartments are being rehabilitated?
Thanks for that question, Jennifer. If a housing credit property experiences a casualty loss where residents are forced to temporarily vacate the property, IRS rules require the owner to have the property or the impacted apartments in the property back in service by December 31st of that calendar year in which the casualty occurs. The problem is that the December 31st deadline is the same regardless of when the loss occurred. So if the casualty occurs in the beginning of the year, that might be too generous of a time period. However, when only a few months is actually needed. But if the casualty happens later in the year, it can be hard to meet that December 31st deadline.
So how would the Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act change this?
Instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, the legislation would give state housing credit agencies the ability to determine a reasonable time period for restoration after a casualty loss, generally no more than 25 months from the date of that casualty. That means that if the state agency believes the owner should be able to fix the damage in 6 months, that's how much time the owner will get, regardless of when the casualty occurred. During that time, the owner won't be penalized by losing the ability to take credits so long as the property or the impacted apartments are back in service by the deadline set by the state agency.
That makes a lot more sense. But what happens if there is a lot of damage and fixing it could take more than 25 months?
While it's highly unusual that restoring a property would take more than 25 months, we know that there are some instances where that could happen. For example, major natural disasters such as large wildfires that burn down entire towns and have so damaged the surrounding infrastructure that it might take more than 25 months to build back. In these instances, the Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act makes it an exception and allows an additional 12 months beyond the 25-month period for a maximum of 37 months to get that property back up and running and rent it again. But to be eligible for those additional 12 months, the property must be located in a federally declared disaster area.
Is the owner able to take credits against their tax liability for that entire period?
They are, but the owner must agree to extend the compliance period for the property by any amount of time that goes beyond that 25 months. So, for example, let's say the property is burned down due to a wildfire for which there is or was a federally declared disaster, and the state determines that the owner can have the maximum 37 months to rebuild the property. Then the property's affordability period is extended for an additional 12 months. To get any time beyond 25 months, of course, the owner would need to agree to extend the affordable period.
And what section of the bill is this in?
It's in Section 301.
Thanks, Ariane. That sounds like a reasonable compromise. For more on our video series, visit the Action Campaign's website at www.rentalhousingaction.org.